what we are going to do today, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have all of you. What we are going to do today is to look at a practical. I told you the last time. I told you the last time that we shall do a practical demonstration or practical application of a linear programming problem. Okay. So what I'm going to do is to demonstrate how practical. This is more practical than the two variable case. Okay. Because I have it here that more complex examples of model formulation are what you're going to do. Because in real life, you have more than Fanyogo, more than Fanchoco, more than Fanise, more than Fandango. You have multiples of them. And so we're going to look at this Amabenuado story. So this lady has 70,000. She wants to invest in the 70,000. The interest rate on each of the instruments are as follows. And you have been told that the interest rates, so let me just give it to you here. The interest rates are 8.5 if you should invest in municipal bonds. If AMA should invest in certificate of deposit, the interest rate is 5%. In other words, you get more interest if you invest in municipal bonds than if you invest in certificate of deposit. But if you go into treasury bills, the interest rate is 6.5. It's in between these two. Okay. And a growth stock fund gives you a higher interest rate of 13%. Now, you might want to think of a growth stock fund like a mutual fund, like M Fund from Data Bank. Okay. And that one, because everybody is kind of coming together for it, the tendency that the interest rate is higher. All of these investments are evaluated after 1 year. So after 1 year, we are going to see what is happening. But they are risk. They are risk. And because of those risks, that is why it's sensible to diversify your portfolio. So what Amma wants to do is that with this 70,000 in her hand, she wants to know where she should invest and how much she should put into what, given the interest rate or given the return she's going to have vis-a-vis the risk. Some of them have got risks. And look at what first risk. The first risk is that no more than 20% of the investment should be in municipal bonds. So you can invest in municipal bonds, but nothing more than 20% of the total 70,000 should go into municipal bonds. The amount involved in certificate of deposit should not exceed the amount invested in the other three, where the other three you would have known. That is another constraint you have to take into consideration. Please note that these are not resource constraints per se, they are rather mixed constraints. You might remember I told you that there are multiple constraints. One group of constraints are for the resources when you are producing. The other group is for the mixed, where you can mix some of the constraints. Another constraint is at least 30% of the investment should be in treasury bills, okay, and certificate of deposit. To be safe, more should be in certificate of deposit, CDs, and TDs than in MBs and growth stock fund by a certain ratio of at least 1.2 to 1. Now, that is the most difficult constraint, that last one. But we shall dig into that. And eventually, the final constraint is that Amma wants to invest everything. All that she has, 70,000, she wants it to go. Your job is to formulate a linear programming problem and then solve it. Of course, this one you cannot solve graphically. You have to solve with Excel. So how do you proceed? First thing is to define the decision variables. So let's look at the decision variables. Look at the word. Of course, if you have your slides and you are listening to me, it's not good. Okay, if you are here, you are listening to me, you must have your slides away so that your mind will be very open to enjoy. Okay. But normally when you have the slides with you and you're seeing answers and you are asked questions and you look at the answers and you give the answer, It makes you feel like, oh, I know. But when you don't have anything, your brain, so your cerebral cortex is able to rise and you're able to really think, and you can have confidence that you got it by yourself. So what are the decision variables? That's the question. What is the decision variables? Oops. I need somebody to raise their hand and tell me what are we deciding on? What is the goal? Mary.
Okay, so the goal is for us, for AMA to determine whether to invest in municipal bonds, how much you should invest in municipal bonds, in certificates deposit, sorry.
Okay, so if we are to
bills,
represent these things with X's.
The gold stock fund.
Can you hear me?
And then the annual return. So it's how much is that going?
It looks like she can't hear me when I talk.
Hello, please, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. I can hear you loud and clear, but you can't. All right. It looks like she cannot hear me.
Okay, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so I was asking you, so how would you have written it? How would you have written it?
Oh, okay. So it will be, let X1 represent the municipal bonds.
Okay.
Let X2 represent the certificates deposits.
So let me tell you something. You said let X1 represent municipal bonds.
The amount, sorry.
So you are wrong.
The amount
Get a point.
Invested in municipal bonds.
Well, you knew that, but you decided to omit that, and later when I say it, then you will now give the answer.
Sorry.
Okay, so let me rewrite it again. You know, the unit of measurement is very, very important. Okay, so the amount to invest in municipal bonds. Okay, X2, the amount to invest. Don't be using this tick when you are doing your practical work. I beg you. Okay. The amount to invest in certificates of deposit, and you have to write the full names. The amount to invest. I mean, I'm just writing exactly what you said. The only thing is that I needed you to mention the amount, which you have recognized properly. So that is the best thing I needed. But if you actually write, let X1 be municipal bonds, X2 be certificate of deposit, that would be wrong. In an exam, you lose 5 marks for that. Okay, it's important to write that using the actual names. And then, of course, let X3 be the amount to invest in treasury bills, and then X4 be the amount to invest in growth stock fund. So this is how you are supposed to represent your decision variables. So AMA has to now decide, you know, on the amount to invest. AMA has to decide, how much should I invest? Given the return, given the risk, how much should I invest? So now with that decision variable, we need to now formulate the objective function. Okay, let me go back to the question, and then let's see how we can formulate the objective function. So using the principles here, how would we formulate objective function? Of course, before you can formulate objective, you have to know whether your Z is a maximization or a minimization. And what are we maximizing or what are we minimizing? Who can tell me? Are we maximizing or minimizing? And what are we maximizing or what are we minimizing? That's your next question. That's objective. That's your Z.
The question states that AMA wants to know how much to invest in each alternative in order to maximize the return. So we are maximizing the returns of the investments.
Thank you. So how would you write your Z function, your objective function value? Using that beautiful sentence. So I can still on you.
Oh, okay. You write
Whatever you say, I'm going to write it. So say it.
Noted, please. You write Z max. I'm also writing, so write Z max is called to the returns on
municipal bonds.
MB, municipal bonds.
Okay. Those of you who are, let me show you the information, by the way. In fact, let me write it here first before I take it to the board. So let's write it here. Z max equal to, how will you write it? Yes, Dora.
Thank you, Doc. A Z max equal to 0.085.
Okay, so Dora, let me ask you, is there a problem if somebody should write Z max equal to 8.5% X1? Is there any problem if you write that?
Sir, please come again.
Is there any problem if somebody were to write what I've written? Do you see what I've written?
Yes, sir.
Is there any problem?
Don't
worry if you're not sure. Okay,
yes,
tell me.
I should tell you the problem.
Well,
not sure. Let's read
okay.
answers.
Rita, try. Is there any problem if somebody writes 8.5% X1?
Yes, because it's a linear programming. So we have to, everything, it has to be in line, not in percentages.
I love that. Exactly. Okay. So what it means is that if you write 8.5%, that would be wrong. So it's supposed to be 0.085 X1. That is how it's supposed to be.
Okay.
Then plus, so now you can take over, Dora, and walk me through.
Okay, so Z max equals 0.5 X1 plus 0.05 X2 plus 0.065 X3 plus 0.13 X4.
Okay, very good. 0.13 X4. So that is how it's supposed to be. This is supposed to be your objective function. Okay. There are 4 decision variables here. So you should note that there are 4 x's that you're going to have. Now that you've written your Z max, you have to write subject to, and then you continue with the constraint. So at this stage, we are going to look at the constraints one by one. The constraints have been given. Yes, Judith.
Thank you, sir. Please, I have a question concerning the ZMax. I want to find out when the question says that we want to maximize the return, is it maximizing the profits in quotes from the various investments alternatives?
When you say
available?
profits, it's very difficult to relate with you because we are in investment world.
Are we talking about returns from the individuals alternative investments, or we are talking about at the end of the day, after the returns have come on the individual ones, the total amount she's going to get?
This is the total return. The total return from individual investments. Now remember, you know how much you want to put in. You don't know yet. You want to know how much to put in, because how much you put in will indicate how much money you are going to have. Why? Because the returns are known. The interest rates are known. But you got to know how much to put in, then it will yield a return for you. The rate of return is known, 8.5%. So I know that if I put in X1, I will get 8.5%. But the question is, how much is that X1 I should put in? If I put in 100,000, okay, then the interest rate is 8.5%. So I'm going to get 8.5% of 100,000 and add it to the 100,000.
Yeah, so that's where my concern is. In terms of the ZMAX, when we finish everything, will it be added, like the different percentages we have done, will it be added to the 70,000, which would eventually give us our ZMAX, or to returns from the individual ones? That is what we are calling return. So are we calling return?
We are not including the principal. The principal is outside.
Okay. That's my question. All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other before I move on? All right, so now let's go to the first constraint. The first constraint says that no more than 20%. Yes, Emmanuel.
Yes, sir. Doc, please just a clarification. If you look at the first one, 0. ZMAX, 0.085 X1, and then the second one is 0.5 X2. So my question is 0.582. Why not the
it is 0.05?
0.05. Okay. But the fourth one, the X4 is 0.13. So I'm confused. Why not 0.013?
Okay. So it's 13%. How will you write 13%? 100% is 1.
Yes, Doc.
80% is 0.8. 50% is 0.5.
Okay.
20% is 0.2. 10% is 0.1. So 13% is 0.13.
Thank you, Doc.
All right. What you could have easily done is that you take your calculator and do 13 over 100. It would have given you the answer. All right, so let's go to the first constraint. The first constraint says no more than. So you have to understand what no more than means. In English, more than is what symbol? More than. Solomon.
More than is greater than in English.
Good. So this is a symbol. More than is greater than. So what is the opposite of this greater than? That is a no more than, by the way. What is the opposite of this symbol you see on your screen? Because that is the no more than. Okay. Let me call Somia Isaac.
It's less than.
I said Isaac is what?
Less than.
Less than. All right. Okay. Isaac, that is not correct. Less than is not correct answer. I think you should drink some tea first. Let's go to Dorothy. What is the opposite of greater than?
It's less than or equal to, sir.
It is less than or equal to. Okay. So those were some of the things I indicated I should learn before coming. So it's less than or equal to. And so that no more than simply refers to less than or equal to. Okay, good. So now we know it's less than or equal to. Go and learn less than or equal to. Go and learn no more than, no less than, above, at least, at most. Okay, no younger than, not greater than. All of these things, there is a video I've made on them. Watch them. Now you have to now understand 20% of the total investment. We know the total investment is 70,000. So you have to calculate 20% of that. And we are told that we are dealing with municipal bonds. Municipal bonds is represented by which letter? Municipal bonds is X1. Isaac, you have a question?
Oh, no, Doctor, I wanted to respond to that.
Okay.
That municipal bonds was represented.
Okay, it's X1. So if municipal bond is X1, We are talking about X1. No more than 20% of the investment should be in X1. So you got to calculate 20% of 70,000. What is that? Samuel?
14,000.
Good. And you know the symbol you are dealing with is less or equal to. So it means that X1 less or equal to 14,000. That is your constraint. What does that mean? It means that I have to invest no more than 20%. In other words, 20% of the investment is 14,000. So I cannot invest 15,000 in municipal bonds. That is why it is less than or equal to 14,000. I cannot invest anything beyond 14,000. The maximum I can invest in municipal bonds is 14,000. That will lessen the risk. That will diversify the investment. Next one. The next one, I'm going to let you try it. What does the next one say? The next one says, the amount in certificate of deposit. So you have to know what is represented by certificate of deposit. Certificate of deposit is represented by what letter? Someone. Someone.
X2.
X2. So you put X2 here. What does should not exceed? What symbol is that? Should not exceed. First of all, you got to think about exceed before you think about its opposite, which is a not exceed. What is not exceed? I don't want to exceed. I want not to exceed. Nyako. What is not exceed? All right, Emanuela.
Less than or equal to.
Less than or equal to, correct. So this is less or equal to. So you've gotten some symbols here. Now it says that amount invested in X2 should not exceed the amount invested in the other three alternatives. What do we mean by the other three alternatives? You can tell me. What do we mean by the other three alternatives? Abbas.
The other three alternatives are represented by X1, X3, and X4.
Abbas, what should we do with it? Multiply, divide, subtract, or add?
We add them together.
Why add?
Because the question indicated that the question was comparing the certificate of deposits to the sum of the other three alternatives.
I like that word you used, to the sum of that. Now, even though the word sum wasn't indicated, it's implicit. Or that, right? And since there is a symbol which is less than or equal to, the relationship between the X2 and the other three will be the sum of the other three and nothing else. Because you can't write that 3 times. Therefore, how would you write, since the other three are X1, X3, and X4, how would you write this constraint? You can tell me. Having broken it down. Sheila.
Okay, sir. So it's going to be X2 less than or equal to X1 plus X3 plus X4.
Excellent. Very good. So you have X2 less or equal to that. Now, if you look at this is a mixed constraint, like I told you earlier. All of these are mixed constraints. So you're kind of mixing, connecting these. Now, this mathematics equation, this inequality that is standing here, you can manipulate it so that you group items. If you were to group items, how will it look like? Rebecca. Rebecca, if you were to group items, how would this inequality look like? Mary.
So, sir,
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, Rebecca, what happened? I called you twice.
I'm sorry.
Okay, don't worry. Let Mary help you. So Rebecca, hold on. Mary will help you here. Yes, Mary.
Okay, so we'll take all the letters to the left side. So x1 will cause the sign to the left side. So it will be minus x1.
Okay. So I should start writing, right?
Yes, please.
What should I write?
Write minus x1.
Okay, so minus x1.
So plus x2. X2 is already there, so it's positive. Then we'll cross the x3 to the other side, so it will become negative. So minus x3. And then the x4 will also cross to the other side, so it will become negative. So minus x4. So I'm arranging it in order. So that is why we have the x1, x2, x3, x4. Then less than or equal to 0.
Okay, perfect. Beautiful. That shows you've learned. And that shows that the way you did it in order is a fantastic way of writing. So that when it comes to the solver computation, everything will be nicely organized so that Excel will see it beautifully. For your information, what number is in front of the X1? What number is in front of each number? X1, X2, X3, X4, X. No, what number is in front? Justice. Follow me. Follow me.
Sorry, say 1.
Follow me. Yeah, go ahead.
1.
Okay. So Justice, that is not correct. Let me go to another person. No problem. You will learn from the other person. Okay. What number is in front? Freeman.
It says, so for x1 is -1, x2 is 1, x3 is -1, and x4 -1.
Perfect answer. So that x1 you see here is -1. And so when you're putting that into the Excel, that is a number you put into the Excel, -1, which is directly under the x1. And then the x2 will be +1. Of course, you're not going to write +1, you just write 1. But for the negative, you have to write -1. We have been able to deal with the 2 constraints. So the first constraint, there you go, x1 less or equal to 14,000. The second constraint, -1, x1, negative, +1, x2, -1, x3, -1, x4. Constraint 2, sorted. Let's go to constraint number 3. At least 30% of the investment should be in TV and CD. You have to remember the X's for this. What is the X for TV and what is the X for CD? Solomon.
CD is X2 and TB is X3.
Okay. I like the way you went backward. So TB is X3 and certificate of deposit is X2. If you put these things on top of them, it helps you to know what you're dealing with. Okay. What symbol is at least? What symbol, mathematical symbol is at least? Because this is what guides you in your processing. This is what guides your mental framework. Nade?
Greater than or equal to.
Greater than or equal to. Now we've seen this before. Greater than or equal to is the right answer. And so with that in mind, you know that this symbol is greater or equal to. Keep that in mind. The next sentence is 30% of the investment. How much is 30% of the investment? You can tell us. Samuel, what? Samuel. Dennis.
Doc, $21,000.
Good. So 30% of the investment is 21,000. Okay, so you keep that there, 21,000. And now you've been told at least 30% of that investment, or at least 21,000, should be in treasury bills and certificate of deposit. What shows that the treasury bills and certificate of deposit, we are multiplying, dividing, subtracting, or adding? What shows? Which one and what shows? Judith.
So because of the end sign, it will be addition.
Good. So end is addition. Okay. So on the basis of that, who can write this for me? How should this be formulated? This is one of the most difficult formulations you will ever do. That is why once you crack this, you can crack everything. How would you now put all together, mathematically speaking, so that you now have a complete work? Akosia Forcing.
Okay, sir. So since we have the CD to be X2 and the TB to be X3, to be X2 plus X3 greater or equals to 21,000.
Perfect. This is your constraint. Now, if you're actually writing this, because it comes below the previous constraint, it must also go under each one. So if the previous constraint is X1, X2, X3, X4, this one is just X2 and X3. So they should kind of be vertically nicely arranged under the rest, because that is what Excel will do anyway. So now X1, X2 plus X3 is not difficult to get because you know where it comes from. Constraint number 4. To be safe, put more in certificate of deposit. What is that? X2. And treasury bills. What is that? X3. Put more into this than in municipal bonds. What is that? X1. And the growth stock fund. What is that? X4. Put more into this, but you got to do it in a certain ratio. And the ratio must be at least. We've already known that at least is what symbol? Greater or equal to. Judith, your hand is up. Judith, your hand is up.
Oh, sorry, this was a mistake.
Solomon.
Okay, so can you start writing for me, please?
Okay, I'm writing for you.
Okay, so 1.2.
No.
Then no.
No. You see, ideally, unless you've already prepared ahead of time, before you can give me that 1.2. But if you haven't prepared ahead of time, if you are thinking, that is not really what you would have written first.
I think you should watch, at least see what I'm doing.
I know you are going to get it correct. I know.
Okay.
I know.
All right.
I believe you're going to get it correct, and I am sure of that. But I'm saying that if you were thinking about this from the onset, looking at the way the writing has been done, you wouldn't have written 1.2 first. If you still want to go, let's go. 1.2.
Okay. 1.2, and then brackets open, X2.
Yeah.
Plus X3, brackets closed, is greater or equal to X1 plus X4.
Okay. So yeah, this is what you would have written. But I'm saying that if somebody is naive and is beginning and is thinking through this thing, the way and manner you would have done this thing is that the manner you would have done it. Ideally, you would have written X2, which is the certificate of deposit and treasury bills, you'd have written x2 plus x3. And you will make it a ratio, because it says a ratio. Certificate of deposit and treasury bills done, municipal bonds and gross stock fund by a ratio. So you know that it has to be a ratio, and the ratio is x1 plus x4. That word, in a ratio of at least, of course, we know that at least is greater or equal to 1.2 to 2. Normally, when you're writing ratios and you see ratios as 1.2 to 1, how would you normally write it? Suppose I tell you that 4 to 5. Normally, how do you write it? 4 to 5.
4 over 5.
It's 4 over 5, exactly. That's how we normally do it. So 1.2 to 1 will be 1.2 over 1. So ideally, this is the first approach you would have used to write it. And then after here, what do? You do what you've done. You cross multiply. And when you cross multiply, you will get what you gave me up here. So when you cross multiply, 1.2 will be multiplying x1 and x4. And then the rest will follow. But even after here, you have to do something. What do you have to do? And who can do that? What do you have to do? And who can do that? Even after here, after getting this very one that my good friend had. After that, what do you have to do? And who can do that? Mary.
You have to multiply.
You have to what? I want the right word to use. You have to. You've forgotten a bit of that mathematical name. We call it expand.
Okay.
You remember that now?
Yes, please.
This thing has been factorized. So you got to expand it. You expand the left-hand side. The right-hand side has already been expanded. So you expand the left-hand side. What will it be? Continue. What will it be when you expand, Mary?
So you cross, so you expand it, as we said. So it will be x2 plus x3 multiplying 1, which will be x2 plus x3 greater than or equal to.
No, that is not how it to be. If you expand it.
Please, I think I'm lost. Oh, okay, sorry.
Don't worry. Let somebody take over, okay? So that whilst you meditate on it. Justice. How will you expand it, Justice? How will you expand the left-hand side here? How will you expand it?
So you multiply 1.2 through the bracket. So that will be 1.2 x2 plus 1.2 x3.
That's it. 1.2 x2 plus 1.2 x3. Continue.
But sir, looking at the equation you formulated, the ratio 1, and then comparing it to the one in red, the one my other colleague gave.
Yeah.
It seems like the cross multiplication should rather take the the x1 and x4 instead of the x2 and x3.
Okay, I cannot get you.
I'm confused.
Yes, I cannot get you. So ideally, what we have here should be negative, isn't it? If we have to continue, so what we have here should be negative.
The formulation we are expanding now.
Let me clear it and go to the board so that we can use the board. So if I were to understand what you're saying, which of course you're right, what you're indicating is that it is, when you cross multiply, really speaking, when you cross multiply, because it was x2 plus x3,
yes,
over x1 plus x4, greater or equal to 1.2 over 1. So when you cross multiply, ideally it will be x2 plus x3 greater or equal to, now let's expand, 1.2 x1 plus 1.2 x4.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So let's proceed from here. What do you do next?
So you group like terms.
Walk me through.
So the
and
right hand
once
side,
you're grouping like term, follow the order for me so that it becomes beautiful.
Yes, sir. So the right hand side will move to the left hand side, which will be moving the first part, 1.2 x1 will move to the right to become negative
move to the left.
1.2. Sorry, move to the left to become negative 1.2 x1 plus x2.
Yeah.
Plus x3.
Yeah.
Minus 1.2 x4 greater or equal to 0.
Excellent. So that is how it's supposed to be. This is your final arrangement for the last constraint, for the last but one constraint. That is how it's supposed to be. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are formulating is the most important skill that you need in this. Now, let me take you back to the story. There's one last constraint. Amma wants to invest everything. Amma wants to invest the entire 70,000. How would you write that constraint? How do you understand it in the first place, Isaac?
Doc, please, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I want to understand that it's because the last constraint that we use, we use the 1.2 because it's a ratio. Because remember, when we're dealing with the objective function, where we had 8.5%, we changed it into decimals. But this one we didn't change because it was a ratio. I just want to get that understanding.
Yes, that is correct. You're right. Yeah, you're right. Because there was no percentage attached to it. It was just numerical ratio. If it was a percentage, we would have used 0.012 or 0.012. All right. So the last constraint. What does that last constraint mean? And how would you write it? What does that last constraint mean? Francis, your statement you made to me, is it sorted, Francis Wyan?
Yes, Doc, it's sorted. The first answer was wrong. Yes, okay.
All right. So now let me go to the last constraint. Kwajo, Daniel.
So it means the individual investment should be equal to the sum of the individual investment or deposits should be equal to the $70,000.
How will you write that?
Which means X1 plus X2 plus X3 plus X4 should be equal to $70,000.
Why is it not less than or equal to $70,000?
Because we are looking at, yes, because he said he wanted to invest. The investment should be equal to, from the question, Amma wanted to invest everything.
So if you had brought less than or equal to, what would that mean?
Less than or equal to would have mean the sum, the totality of the deposit will be less than the 70,000.
Okay, or can be less than, not will be, but can be less than. But this stage means that it cannot at all be less than 70,000. Okay, fantastic. This last constraint is important. This last constraint has nothing to do with the non-negativity constraint. After you're done with everything, then you add your non-negativity constraint, which is x1, comma, x2, comma, x3, comma, x4, greater or equal to 0. Then that completes your entire work. Now, ladies and gentlemen, at this stage, I want to show you the complete model that you just formulated along with me. Everything that you saw was as a result of thought and as a result of, gradual work. But this is your complete model. You see, the model has been arranged in such a way that now you have to take your time to actually work it out. But one of the constraints was not properly arranged to make it quite sensible enough for Excel to accept it. I mean, even though it could be changed. Which constraint is that? One of the constraints was not properly. Asante.
Please, is the second constraint.
Very good.
So
second constraint. It should have been what?
It should have been negative x1 plus x2 minus x3 minus x4
Very
less
good.
than or equal to 0.
Excellent. That's it. Now, guys, I want you to later on, you can do this and put it on the page. Convert this that you see into the standard form. Try it on your own. Convert this linear programming model into the standard form and put it on the page later on, and let me see. Because your capacity to do that is as a result of your thought process. Because there are 5 constraints, you should know how many slack variables there should be. And on the basis of that, what would that mean related to what constraint? So try and think about the standard form of this. Now we can now do this in Excel. And I did mention that you should all try this in Excel. Okay, so this is something that we did in there. Let me see by hands, those of you who did it in Excel and got Excel results. You did it in Excel, you got an Excel result. Let me see by hand, those of you who did. Don't worry, if you did it and you got the result, and I'm about to show you the result, by the way. Don't worry if you didn't, don't force if you didn't do it. But if you did and you got the result, let me show you the sensitivity result. In fact, the way to do it, I'll put it all here. So if you got this result, I'm highlighting it here. Okay, this result, the one I've just highlighted. If you got this result, 38181 and then 31818. If you got this result in your Excel sheet, okay. Those of you who have taken, raise your hand. Just keep it raised. If you're answering a question, don't raise your hand or lower your hand. Keep it raised. And please don't worry if you didn't do. This is not usually for everybody. But don't force to add your name because I said keep it raised. I implore you. Okay. So majority of you, let me confirm this. Majority of you did some good work. I don't know why some of you are now adding your name. 2 people just added their names. It's not necessary for you to add your name. All of a sudden, you just raise your hand. Okay. If you didn't do, you didn't do. There's no need to. There's no need to. Okay. The 2 people who added your name, I don't know why you thought of it before you add your name. Can you just explain why you are adding your name all of a sudden? The 2 people who added your name. You know yourself. The two people. If you were the last of the two that you added. Anyway, I don't even, because what I did is
Doc.
Yes.
So initially I raised my hand, but there was a temporary break in the communication, and I heard you say something like drop your hand, but I think you were talking about people who wanted to ask questions, that they should lower their hand. So I lowered it and then I raised my hand again because you repeated yourself. So I heard what you were saying. So I raised my hand again.
Okay, so that was your explanation. Who is the other person? All right. I've taken 2 screenshots, okay, so that's why. All right, please, you can all lower your hands now.
Hello, Doc, that's me.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm listening.
When you asked about the person who raised her hand, I did it, but when you asked, I was a bit distracted, so I didn't hear the question. It was later that I heard and I raised my hand.
Okay, can you please all lower your hands now so that we go through this question? So look at the sensitivity result. This is the sensitivity result. And this sensitivity result has some questions that I'm going to ask. And based on those questions, you will address them and I will answer them. Okay. Yes, Joanna, your hand is up.
Sir, please, it's an error.
Now, using the sensitivity report, what is the optimal solution to this investment problem? Using the sensitivity result, what is the optimal solution to this investment problem? That's a question. Using the sensitivity, you just raise your hand, you tell me, and you explain your answer. Using this sensitivity result, what is the optimal solution to this investment problem? Emmanuel.
Thank you, Doc. The optimal solution is 38181.8 and 31818.2. That is for X3 and X4.
So that's how you would have written it, isn't it?
Yes, Doc.
That's exactly how you would have documented it on paper. Is that it?
For that's the, yes, Doc.
Okay. Let me get another opinion. Who has another opinion? How you would have documented this? Freeman.
So the optimal solution is to invest $38,181.82 in treasury bills and to invest $31,818.18 in the growth stock fund.
Perfect. So ladies and gentlemen, you see, if you are a lecturer and you are having these two answers, you know, one of them you'll give the full mark and the other one you will not give the full mark. If I were to ask you which of them will you give the full mark, is the second answer, because that shows the person understands the executive summary of the work. Foster, do you follow? Foster, do you follow? Do you understand, Foster? All right, so that's it. That's the first answer. You have to write it in a way that shows that you understand it. So please, there's no answer to this in your slide. You have to know the answer we are giving so that you will document your answer down. Yes, Judith.
Sir, please, so the values that we had 0 for.
Sorry?
Do you have to, for the values that were zeros, do we have to comment on those?
No, you don't have to comment on those because they were nothing.
Yeah, okay. So you just comment on the ones that you actually had values for, because then if
it looks like the first answer I gave you, you weren't comfortable with this, so you want a confirmation.
Oh no.
Because
It's just,
I gave you
yeah.
the question answer, but it looks like you're answering again to confirm the answer I gave.
Yeah.
So you are being asked of the optimal solution. Where should you invest and how much? Now you know that you have to invest in treasury bills and growth stock fund. Why will I want to now tell you where I will not invest? There are hundreds of investments I didn't even do in the first place. So if I want to tell you where I'm not going to invest, I have to talk about more than the 4. There are several things that they did not invest into.
Okay. So in a case where then all of them were 0, then what we have said?
There wouldn't be a model.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. If all of them are 0, then what you are telling Ama Benuado is to put that money under her pillow. So there was no investment and there was no returns. That's what happens in real life. Some people will put their money under the pillow. They will not take it to any, investment arena, and they keep it under the pillow. They get no return, and they have the same money that they had before. That is if thieves don't come and steal. Next question. Find the corresponding maximum investment return. So after you found the optimal solution, that is how much to invest in each, what is the corresponding maximum investment return using the story here? Kwesi?
Yes, sir. It is our Zmax, which is
Okay.
0.
Hold on so that I write it. You said it's our Zmax, which is
0.065.
0.065.
Into bracket 38181.82. 38181.82 plus 0.13 into bracket 1818.18. And when you do the math, it comes to $6,618.18.
Okay.
So
when you did the math, is that the exact thing?
Yes.
If you use all the 4 decimals,
18.1.
If you use all the 4 decimals, they should be 70,000. But the value you just gave me is almost like that, isn't it?
Yes. Are you talking about the final values?
No, what you just did, what you just told me, if you were to multiply them and add them, you are going to get 69,000 something, right?
It is 6,618.
Oh, okay, sorry.
$6,618.18.
$618.18. Okay. So that's the amount you get when you multiply.
Yes.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for that. So that is the total return you get. So you put in 70,000 over 2, investment portfolio. And what you did is that you got 6,618 return. So your final money, including the principal, will be 76,618. So you got this amount of money back. And that is what he's giving it. That is the investment return. That's the total return. But let me ask you guys something. Would you say that Ama Benuado invested everything? Would you say Ama Benuado invested everything? Did she invest everything? Of course, you know I'm going to ask you why. Princess?
Yes, she did. Because she invested 38,181. When you add that one to the what she invested in the treasury, the CPO and then the green stock, it will give you 70,000. So 3818.81 plus 31818 will give us the total 70,000.
Perfect. That's it.
And also,
we'll come back to that also. I know that also. That's it. That's it. Okay, so she did everything. And then she was able to get that amount. Let's move on to the next question. Next question. The next question is, that was a question I asked. Was the entire amount of money actually invested? Actually, that was the first justification Princess gave us. Who can give us the second justification to prove that the entire amount was invested? The second justification. Solomon.
So if we look at the constraints table under total invested achievement,
okay,
the final is 70,000.
So
that's which is the entire value of what we had available to us.
So are you focusing on the left-hand side or the right-hand side?
The right-hand side. Sorry, the left-hand side.
The left-hand side, that's it. So the focus is on the left-hand side value. And the most important thing is that since the left-hand side, document all of this, since the left-hand side, 70,000 equals the right-hand side, 70,000, she did invest everything. She did invest everything. Next question. What is the sensitivity range for amount of municipal bonds? So let's go back there. Look at this, the solution, the sensitivity result. What is the sensitivity range for the amount of municipal bonds? Who can tell us? You must have calculated this, and you just have to tell us how you calculated it. What is the sensitivity range? By the way, which letter represents municipal bonds? Which letter is that? Justice.
X1, Doc.
X1. What is the sensitivity range for that? How would you have written the sensitivity range?
Doc, it will be...
Have you calculated it already?
Yes, Doc.
Okay, let's go. I'll start writing. And walk me through. Don't just give me the answers. Walk me through.
So it will be 0. The objective coefficient. Okay, so let me give the objective coefficient minus the allowable difference less or equal to sensitivity for X1 less or equal to the objective coefficient plus the allowable increase.
Okay.
So that would be 0.085.
0.085
minus the infinity figure there.
Okay, minus infinity.
Yeah, less or equal to the sensitivity range.
Yeah.
For X1, less or equal to 0.085 plus 0.045.
Okay, what will be the final answer?
The final answer will be 0 is less or equal to sensitivity range for X1 less or equal to 0.13.
Fantastic. Why did you make the left-hand side 0?
Because our last lecture, you indicated that whenever you have a negative infinity, you have to bring it to 0.
Very good. But why? That's the mathematical meaning, but why?
Okay, and also with linear programming, we deal with non-negativity, meaning that there shouldn't be any negative in the figures we are dealing with. So
yeah. Very good, very good. That's it. Excellent. So this is a sensitivity range. For those of you who are not getting it, this is a sensitivity range. So what it means is that the interest rate, listen carefully, guys, because what this is, who can interpret this sensitivity range? Who can interpret it? Now, first of all, remember that you are not investing in municipal bonds. In case you don't know, municipal bonds, you didn't invest in it, the value was 0. Okay. But now that the value was 0, it means that you should not invest in it. The interest rate currently is supposed to be increased, but no more than 30%, and decrease up to 0. Now, currently, the interest rate is 8.5%, and yet you did not invest in it. 8.5% interest rate, and yet you did not invest in municipal bonds. But you can increase, if not you, because you don't have control over that. If the financial institution were to increase the interest rate from 8.5, what is the maximum they can go to? If they were to increase the interest rate, Abaya, what's the maximum?
So 0.13 would be the maximum they can get to.
What did you say? Zero what?
0.13.
Yes, very good. So just say 13%, okay? So they can increase it all the way to 13%, no more, because that's the upper bound of the sensitivity range. So if I were to ask you that, what would be the minimum interest rate that would ginger Ama Benyuado to invest in municipal bonds? Because currently she's not investing in municipal bonds. What would be the minimum interest rate that would ginger her to be motivated to go put in money into municipal bonds? What would that be? Who can tell me? Emmanuel. What would be the minimum? Samuel.
Sir, please, it will be 13% because you take
Don't worry. They all get it. They all get it now. It's 13%. Okay. Of course, that is also the maximum the interest rate can go to. And that will be the minimum that will motivate the guy. That is why, note it, that is why municipal bonds has a reduced cost value, which is negative. Because you are not investing in it. The opportunity cost of investing in it, given that is 0 now, the opportunity cost of investing in it is that 4.5%. So currently, the interest rate is 8.5%. If I add 4.5%, which is a reduced cost value, the absolute value of the reduced cost, that will give me the 13%. Oh, sorry, it was 8.5%, not 4. So the interest rate is not enough. That's the key. The interest rate is not enough to motivate Ama to want to invest in municipal bond. It ain't good. The interest rate ain't good. And because it ain't good, Ama Benyuado need to be motivated, need to be gingered up, motivated to want to invest in that instrument. Currently, it's not feasible. But then there's a sensitivity range by which the financial institution will raise the interest rate. Currently, it's 8.5%. They can't go beyond 13%. The maximum to them is 13. Your minimum, Ama Benyuado's minimum, is that same 13%. Beautiful. Beautiful analysis. So what does this value of 0 to 30 mean? As long as the interest rate is dancing between 0 and 13%, the optimal, solution, what is the optimal solution of 38,000 and approximately 31,800 that was put into treasury bills and growth stock fund. This will not change. Those values will not change as long as, the interest rate is between 0 and 13% for municipal bonds. These are very, very important analysis that you should know. Let's go to the next one. Which diversification mix will yield the most return? Look at the question. Which diversification mix will yield the most return? So look at the diversification mixes. We have 1, we have 2, we have 3, we have 4, we have 5. Which diversification mix will yield the most return, the most combined forces of return, Rebecca? Is Rebecca here? Kwesi? Rebecca, you're supposed to unmute yourself.
I'm talking, no. Hello, sir. Sir, please,
you weren't talking. You were muted.
Sorry.
Yeah, you were muted. So you are back now. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Sir, please, that will be the total investment achievement. The final value of that one was 70,000, and the right-hand side contained the 70,000. So, and the shadow price was 0.0 now. So when you invest in that one, that is when you will get more profits.
Okay, why? Why will you get more profit? I want to understand. And not more profit, but more return. Why will you get more return?
But because of the shadow price is 0.09.
Not really because the shadow price is 0.09. I want you to be very explicit. Why would that one give you the most return? I want the best reason.
The final value, when it is equal to the right-hand side value, the constraints.
Yeah, but that is not the only, that is not really the only means. In fact, that is a quirky means. The most important reason, you remember the word I use is most return. Because you can also have situations where the final value and then the right-hand side constraint of the others are also the same. You can have a situation. For example, if you look at, there could be a situation where some of them are also the same. And then therefore they will all have a shadow price. So what about the shadow price?
The shadow price is positive here. The 0 is positive. It can be negative, but this one is positive, and the final value is equal to the right-hand side.
You've tried. I'm giving you the clue, and you've tried. That is okay. That's good. You've tried. But somebody, they probably know the best answer I'm looking for. And please listen, because somebody will crack that. Foster.
Okay, so I think it's because it has the highest shadow price.
That is the answer. Now listen carefully, my dear lady. It is because it has the highest shadow price. So there could be other ones which may even have positive shadow price, like the last one, the total investment achievement. There could be other ones. There could be other ones that will have positive shadow price like 0.08, 0.05. 0.04. They are all positive. But in this case, this is the one that has the biggest shadow price. Not just positive, but biggest of the positive shadow price. And as a result of that, it is the one that will yield the most investment return. It's very important. Rebecca.
Thank you, sir.
Your hand is up.
Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Now, next question. Which constraints are binding and why? So that's the next question. Which constraints are binding and why? Let's go back there. Look at the sensitivity result. Which constraints are binding and why? Emmanuel. Emmanuel was not. Which constraint is binding? Nade?
The total invested achievement.
Okay, so that one is binding. Why?
Because it has a positive shadow price.
What other reason?
The right hand side is the same as the usage, or the left hand side.
Very good.
Then
you have another one.
I was going to say the shadow price is not zero.
Well, that's what you said is already positive, isn't it? Yeah. All right. So that's it. Okay. So these are the reasons why, that one is binding, the binding constraint. Now, let me ask you a question. All of you. Let me ask you a question. If Amma had a choice of investing in municipal bonds or certificate of deposit, which one should she choose and why? Municipal bonds and certificate of deposit. By the way, who can tell us the X values for them? Municipal bonds and certificate of deposit. What are the X values? Emmanuel.
Yeah, the X1 and S2.
Good. Now, if Amma had a choice of investing in municipal bonds or certificate of deposit, by the way, they are the constraint 1 and constraint 2 achievements. Which one is she going to choose and why? Which one is she going to choose? Oh, hold on. I'm giving that one to someone else. Justice.
No, mine is actually a question. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Doc, the binding constraint, the question you asked before this one.
Yeah.
I realized we only use the fate constraint, the total achievements.
No. Actually, there are other ones that are binding. You're right.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I was going to ask, because I was thinking the fourth one too.
Yes, the fourth one is also binding. This fourth one is binding as well. Yeah. So 2 of the constraints are binding, 3 are not binding. 2 are binding, 3 are binding. That's good. That's good observation. I saw it with my eye, but I think I was in a hurry with this question. Okay. So, certificate of deposit and municipal bonds, if Amma had a choice of investing in either one of them, which one is she going to invest in and why? Why? Let me go to Freeman.
All right, Doc. So she should invest in none because they yield no return.
That's it. When you look at the shadow price for both of them shows that you will get nothing on your return if you should invest in them. You get 0. And no wonder she didn't invest in any one of them at the top there. But let me ask you, if Amma had a choice of investing in the ratio achievement, if Amma had a choice of investing in the ratio achievement and treasury bills, which one should she take and why? This one is tricky. If Amma had a choice of investing in ratio achievement and treasury bills and certificate of deposit achievement, and I'm talking about the 3 and 4, the ratio achievement and the treasury bills, I'm talking about this one and this one. Which one should she go for and why? Judith.
No, please, mine is a question about the previous question.
Okay, go
or
ahead.
a full cup. So I know that the question said none of them, or the best answer to give is none. But what if we had to necessarily choose one of them based on the other values apart from the shadow price?
Sorry, I didn't get it.
I was saying that I know that for the best results, you shouldn't invest in either of them. That is the municipal bonds and then the CD achievements. But what if she necessarily has to choose one of them?
She doesn't have to choose one of them. For example, if you look at the financial climate now, if you ask any banker, what should you do? Most of them will tell you that hold your money or just put it in normal savings. So it's not a matter of if you have to. Life is not like that. If you don't, in other words, it's better to hold that money than to put it into any of these two investments. Put it under your pillow. Go give it to, don't invest, save. That's the point. The analysis, the predictive analytics is telling you that don't do it. You don't have to say, I don't have any choice. You always have a choice. Okay, I hope you get something. Princess. Your hand is up.
Please, none of them. None of them.
None of what? Repeat the question and tell us the answer. Remember that somebody was asking me a question. So I needed you to repeat.
Is that if Amma has the choice to invest in ratio investment and treasury bill, or ratio achievements, which one should she choose and why?
Okay.
That's the question you asked.
And the answer is?
And I said none of them.
Okay, why?
Because the treasury bill and CD's achievements, if Amma should invest in it, looking at the shadow price is zero. That means it will not have any effect on the expansion. It will not add anything to it. And then looking at the ratio achievements, the shadow price is negative 0.29. So if Amma should even invest in that, it's going to reduce her objective function. Oh, yes. That's why I said she should.
All right, so none of them is good. But if Amma, let's go back to your friend's question. If Amma has no choice, which she should, of course. If Amma is forced to do any of these two, which one will she go for? Still on you.
She go for.
If Amma is forced, which is she supposed to go for? If Amma is under duress to invest in treasury bills and CDs, the achievement or ratio achievement, which one is she going to go for?
She'll go for treasury bill and CDs achievement because that one wouldn't affect objective function, but the ratio achievement will reduce this thing.
That's it. Okay. So under duress, she will have to choose the one that will give her nothing than to go with the one that will cut her returns. So that's it. These are all possibilities of sensitivities that I want you to note about it. All right. Solomon, you have a question? Your hand is up.
Doc, sorry.
Yes.
Please raise your hand, then I will know you have a question, okay? Lower your hand if you don't have a question. That helps me. All right, Judith.
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So when we are talking, when you were asking about which constraint was binding, and then we later on said that the ratio achievements also were binding constraints. I just want to confirm, I thought we said that for a constraint to be binding, the shadow price should be positive.
Well, it depends on, the last time I also did mention the shadow price can be positive or negative. What we said is that for constraint to be binding, the shadow price should be non-zero. That's what we said. It should be non-zero.
Okay.
Okay. Judith, you have a question?
Yes, Doc. Please. So, with regards to what you asked and concerning the under duress, if we have a question that tells us that
the word under duress will come. Don't worry.
So if we don't see it, we should assume that
Yes,
it's not there. We should see
the words by
okay,
force under duress will come. So if you don't see that, then you go with what Princess said. Okay. So these are possibilities, ladies and gentlemen. You should be able to crack this all the time. Should be able to crack this. All right, let's go back to this last question. Nothing was invested in two of the assets in the optimal solution, if you check it carefully. That is a municipal bonds and CDs. How much would the return for this investment have to be for it to be invested in? So let's take the first one. We've already answered partly this question, but let's go back to it. How much would the return for these two investments have to be for each one of them to be invested in? Because we didn't invest in them. Look at it here. We didn't invest in X1, we didn't invest in X2. How much should the return be to motivate anybody to want to invest in them? You can tell us. For both. Emmanuel.
Should be on the upper range of.
But tell me the value. Just tell me how much
13%.
Should the rate of return be?
13%.
For which one? There are two products we are talking about.
For the municipal bond.
And then 13%. What about the other one?
The other one. Just a minute, sir.
That's why I wanted you to calculate before you raise your hand. Okay, let's go to another person. Okay, don't worry. Foster. Oh, hold on. Daniel, give me the answer.
That the other one should be 6.5%.
That's it. 6.5%. So currently, the other one, which is CDs, what is the interest rate? It is 5%. Okay, so the interest rate currently is 5%. To motivate someone to invest in that certificate of deposit, the interest rate for that should move from 5% to 6%, 6.5%. That is a motivation. All right. So these are some of the things that you should get to know, to be able to always understand. Let's go to the next model. Unless there's any question, let's go to the next one. A marketing example. Marketing example. Would you want to take some break? Would you want some 3-minute break or so? Princess, your hand is up.
Yeah, sir, please, I want to ask a question. Please go to the question you asked before the slide.
Mm-hmm.
I know the answer, but I want to understand it better. I know that 0.085 is the coefficient, and y minus this one. This one is the reduced value, reduced cost. But the why are you subtracting it from the coefficient? I thought it could have also been 0.85 plus the because you want to could have been 0.085 plus 0.045, or always you have to do it this way.
Well, once you understand that the minus is plus, it's okay, you can do it plus. But there's a principle beyond, because what you see is what you get. You don't see plus, you see minus 0.045, which is an opportunity cost of investing in that thing. And now you want to motivate me. So you got to take that opportunity cost away. Taking it away is the first minus. And the recognizing that it is a loss is the second minus.
Thank you. Thank you. That was the understanding I wanted. Thank you.
All right. So I was asking, do you want some break? Do you want some 3-minute break? Stretch so that you don't get too tired. Okay. Let's do some 3-minute break. So this is a marketing example. The big department store chain, they normally hire advertising firm to determine the types of amount of advertisement to invest. So there are 3 types of advertisements. And these are them. So the company can do a TV commercial, and that will reach 20,000 people. The company can do TV commercial that will reach 20,000 people. But the cost of that is going to be 15,000. They can do a radio commercial that will reach 12,000 people. Watch the words I'm using. The exposure is the number of people reached. But that will cost 6,000. But they can use a newspaper, print media, and do the adverts. That will reach just 9,000 people. And that will cost smallest 4,000. So these are the types of advertisements and the costs involved. And your job is to help this company. So BDSC desires to know the number of each type of advert it should buy in order to maximize exposure. So they are maximizing exposure. They are maximizing exposure. And because they are maximizing exposure, you got to know the exposure. It's estimated that each advertisement and blah, blah, blah will have the potential audience or the people and then the following cost. And that's not the only thing. The firm will have to consider some constraints. Some of them are resource constraints. Some of them are mixed constraints. Constraint 1 is a resource, the budget, the money, the cost. Advertising cost is 100,000. That's a budget. You can't exceed that budget. The TV has a time available for only 4 commercials. The radio has time available for only 10 commercials. The newspaper is available for only 7 commercials. So what do you do? The advertising agency has time and staff available for producing no more than 15 commercials and or ad. Remember, the word ad refers to the newspaper and the commercials refers to the TV and the radio. So you will notice that the TV and the radio, both of them have got what? They've got commercials following them. Commercials following them. But then the newspaper has got ad. All right. So what are the decision variables? What are the decision variables? Who can tell me? When we talk about this, what are the decision variables? You must always know the decision variables and then know the objective function. So who can tell me what are the decision variables? You can take a guess. You look at it carefully. What are the decision variables? Well, if you look at it, what do they want to do? They want to maximize exposure. And because they want to maximize exposure, they need to know something. Let me see if I can write it here. Yeah, Judith. What are the decision variables?
Peace. I think they are the television commercials, radio commercials, and then the newspaper ads.
What will be the unit of measurement?
Can you please go back to the...
Okay, let me go back. Just as you go back so that she can get to the picture. Because this is where thinking faculty comes in. This is a story. Have you got it? Well, it's the
It's
number.
not on my screen. I
It's
think
number.
just me. Okay, okay.
It's a number of TV commercials. It's a number of radio commercials. It's a number of newspaper ad. Oops. I hope the thing is not going to break off. I hope it's not going to break off. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
You have to remember the unit of measurement. Let X1 be the number of TV commercials. How many TV? You want to have as many of them, but each one has got a budget and the number of people you're going to reach. The number of TV commercials that you are going to do. X2 will be the number of radio commercials that you're going to have. X3 will be the number of newspaper ads that you're going to have. So you see this very one, you were a little bit distracted with what the decision variable is actually going to be in terms of what it is and the unit of measurement. So this is very important. This is what you want to always watch out and know. So on the basis of this, how will you write the objective function? What are you going to use here to write your objective function? What will you use? Who can tell me? How do you write objective function? How do you write the objective function? Is objective function going to take the values here, or is going to take the values here? Which one? How do you write the objective function? Akosia first. Akosia, hold on. Let me give it to Perret. I think this is the first time I'm seeing it. Yes, Perret.
It's going to take the exposure or commercial, then numbers under commercial.
Why?
Because we want to maximize exposure. That is what we are looking for.
Very good. So how do you write the objective function? Are we maximizing or minimizing, by the way?
We are maximizing.
Okay, good. What are we maximizing?
We are maximizing exposure.
Good. In other words, we want as many people to see the commercial. So how will you write? So your Z will be max. So how will you write it?
So Z max is equal to 20,000 X1.
I'm removing the 1,000, but you move on.
Plus 12,000 X2. Plus 9,000 X3.
Very good. That is it. Guys, please, when you're writing this anywhere, add the thousands. I'm a little bit lazy. That's why I'm not adding the 1,000. So please, you add 1,000. Okay, so this is your Z max. Then we go to subject to some constraints. So let's start with the constraints here. According to the storyline, the first constraint is the budget limit. How would you write the budget constraint? That is all here. What would be the budget constraint? What would you write as a budget constraint? It says the budget limit for advertisement is 100,000. How will you write it? budget constraint. Dennis.
Doc, I'm trying. I think it will be X1 plus X2 plus X3 less than or equals to 100,000.
That is not quite true. So let's start with another person. Princess.
Since it's a budget and budget talks about cost, I think we'll use the total cost for each. So then the constraint will be 15,000 X1 plus 6,000 X2 plus 4,000 X3. Instead the budget should not be, you can say that
it is 100,000.
Then I can, the budget should be what? Should not be, I want the sign to get my, sorry.
Well,
so 15,000 X1 plus 6,000 X2 plus 4,000.
Do you know the symbol for budget must always be clear? Even if you, before you read, it's a budget. So a budget means that what?
Less than or equal to.
That's it. Get a point. It's less or equal to, in this case, 100K. And the reason is because it's a budget. You can't exceed it. You can use below it. You cannot use more than it. And you can use equal to the budget. So this is the first constraint, and it is a budget constraint. Please write it down. Write it out because it's very, very important. Now the next constraint, it says TV station has time available for 4 commercials. TV station has time available for 4 commercials. What does that mean? It means that X1, which is TV, has only time available for 4 commercials. So you can only have 4 commercials. You can do 2, you can do 3, but you have only up to 4 commercials. Radio X2 has only up to 10 commercials. Newspaper X3 only has up to 7 commercials. And then you are told that the agency has time and staff available. Now, the word time and staff is because we are dealing with commercials and advertising, which is for the print, the newspaper, for producing no more than a total of 15 commercials. Who can indicate how this has to be written? Producing no more than a total of 15 commercials. How would that be written? How would you have written that? It's very simple. By the way, what symbol is no more than? What symbol would be no more than? Alberta.
Doc, it will be less or equal to.
Good. So what it means is that X1 plus X2 plus X3 should be less or equal to 15. In other words, when you combine them together, you cannot exceed 15 commercials. And this is your constraint. And then finally, you will have your non-negativity constraint, X1, X2, comma, X3 greater or equal to 0, non-negative constraint. That becomes your complete, model. Now, at this stage, I want to show you the completed model. So on your screen there are your constraints. Okay. And then your non-negative constraints, and then you are done. So if you look on this screen here, you have the complete model shown here, right here. The non-negativity constraint is the one at the bottom. When you see this constraint, this whole formulation, it might look a little bit complex, but hey,